Hello again, I am Rizwe and this is Let's Play Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, and it's another boring box pushing video. So I will finish reading what I was reading before. And where was I? In Too Deep, yet it also showcases Colin's clowny, prankish, unpredictable side. It's the most moving pop song of the 1980s, about monogamy and commitment. Anything she does, which echoes the J-Girls band Centerfold, but this more spirited and energetic, starts off side 2, and after the album reaches its peak with Domino, a two-part song. Part 1, In the Heat of the Night, is full of sharp, finely drawn images of despair, and is paired with The Last Domino, which fights it with an expression of hope. This song is extremely uplifting. The lyrics are positive as and my cat is trying to remove my book. Okay. And affirmative as anything I've heard in rock. Phil Collins' solo efforts seem to be more commercial and therefore more satisfying in a narrower way, especially No Jacket Required and songs like In the Air Tonight and Against All Odds, though that song was overshadowed by the masterful movie from which it came, and Take Me Home and Susudio, great song, a personal favorite, and his remake of You Can Hurry Love, which I'm not alone in thinking is better than the Supremes original. But I also think that Phil Collins works better with within the confines of the group than as a solo artist, and I stress the word artist. In fact, it applies to all three of the guys, because Genesis is still the best, most exciting band to come out of England in the 1980s. Okay, that part was done. Next, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston burst onto the music scene in 1985 with her self-titled LP, which had 4 #1 hit singles on it, including The Greatest Love of All, You Give Good Love, and Saving All My Love for You. Plus, it won a Grammy Award for Best Pop Vocal Performance by a Female, and 2 American Music Awards, one for Best Rhythm and Blues Single, and another for Best Rhythm and Blues Video. She was also cited as Best New Artist of the Year by Billboard and by Rolling Stone magazine. With all this hype, one might expect the album to be an anticlimactic, lackluster affair. But the surprise is that Whitney Houston, Arista, is one of the warmest, most complex and altogether satisfying rhythm and blues records of the decade, and Whitney herself has a voice that defies belief. From the elegant, beautiful photo of her on the cover of the album in a gown by Giovanni de Maura, and its fairly sexy counterpart in the back in a bathing suit by Norma Kamali, one knows that this isn't going to be a blandly professional affair. The record is smooth but intense, and Whitney's voice leaps across so many boundaries, and it's so versatile, though she's mainly a jazz singer, that it's hard to take in the album on a first listening. But you won't want to. You'll want to savor it over many. It opens with You Give Good Love and Thinking About You, but produced and arranged by Kashif, and they emanate warm, lush jazz arrangements, but with a contemporary synthesized beat. And though they're both really good songs, the album doesn't get kicking until Someone For Me, which was produced by Jermaine Jackson, where Whitney sings longingly against a jazz disco background, and the difference between her longing and the sprightliness of the song is very moving. The ballad, Saving All My Love For You, is the sexiest, most romantic song on the record. It also has a killer saxophone solo by Tom Scott, and one can hear the influences of the 60s girl group Pop in it. It was co-written by Gary Goffin, but the 60s girl groups were never this emotional or sexy, or as well produced, as this song is. Nobody Loves Me Like You Do is a glorious duet with Jermaine Jackson, who also produced it, and just one example of how sophisticated lyrically this album is. The last thing it suffers from is a paucity of decent lyrics, which is what usually happens when a singer doesn't write her own material and has to have her producer choose it. But Whitney and company have picked well here. The dance single, How Will I Know You, my vote for Best Dance Song of the 1980s, is a joyous ode to a girl's nervousness about whether another guy is interested in her. It's got a great keyboard riff, and it's the only track on the album that was produced by wunderkind producer Narada Michael Walden. My own personal favorite ballad, aside from The Greatest Love of All, her crowning achievement, is All at Once, which is about how a young woman realizes all at once her lover is fading away from her, and it's accompanied by a gorgeous string arrangement. Even though nothing on the album sounds like filler, the only track that might come close is Take Good Care of My Heart, another duet with Jermaine Jackson. The problem is that it strays from the album's jazz roots and seems too influenced by 1980s dance music. But Whitney's talent is restored with the overwhelming The Greatest Love of All, one of the best, most powerful songs ever written about self-preservation and dignity. From the first line, Michael Messner and Linda Creed are credited as the writers, to the last, is a state-of-the-art ballad about believing in yourself. It's a powerful statement, and one that Whitney sings with the grandeur that approaches the sublime. Its universal message crosses all boundaries and steals one with the hope that it's not too late for us to better ourselves, to act kinder. Since it's impossible in the world we live in to empathize with others, we can always empathize with ourselves. It's an important message, crucial, really, and it's beautifully stated on the album. Her second effort, Whitney, Arista, 1987, had 4 #1 singles. I Wanna Dance with Somebody, so emotional, Didn't We Almost Have It All, and Where Do Broken Hearts Go, and was mostly produced by Narada Michael Walden, and though it's not as a serious effort as Whitney Houston, it's hardly a victim of sophomore slump. It starts off with the bouncy, danceable I Wanna Dance With Someone Who Loves Me, which is in the same vein as the last album's irrepressible How Will I Know. This is followed by the sensuous Just the Lonely Talking Again. And it reflects the serious jazz influence that permeated the first album, and one can also sense a newfound artistic maturity in Whitney's voice. She did all the vocal arrangements on this album, and this is all very evident on Love Will Save the Day, which is the most ambitious song Whitney has yet performed. It was produced by Jellybean Benitez, and it pulsates with an up-tempo intensity. Unlike most of the songs on this album, it reflects a grown-up's awareness of the world we all live in. She sings, and we believe it. This is quite a change from the softer, little girl lost image that was so appealing in the first album. She projects an even more adult image on the Michael Masser-produced Didn't We Almost Have It All? A song about meeting up with a long-lost lover and letting him know your feelings about the past affair. And it's Whitney at her most poetic. And as on most of the ballads, there is a gorgeous string arrangement. So emotional, this in the same vein as How Will I Know and I Wanna Dance With Somebody. But it's even more rock influenced, like all the songs on Whitney, played by a terrific backup studio with Narada on the drum machine. Ah, kidding. Walter Afanasiev on the synthesizer and the synth bass, Corrado Rustici on synth guitar, and someone listed as Bongo Bob on percussion programming and drum sampling. Where You Are is the only song on the album produced by Kashif, and it bears his ineludible imprint of professionalism. It has a smooth, gleaming sound, like and a sheen to it with a funky sax solo by Vincent Henry. It sounded like a hit single to me, but then again, all the songs on the album do, and I wondered why it wasn't released as one. Love Is a Contact Sport is the album's real surprise, a big sounding, bold, sexy number that it's in terms of production, it's the album's centerpiece. It has great lyrics along with a good beat.